Probably just also trying to be better about all the buts and ums and and butt fors and flyboys.
What's a butt for?
Like butt
For pooping, silly.
Butterscotch. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 55 of Coffee with Butterscotch, the game dev comedy podcast of Butterscotch Shenanigans. Woo! I'm Seth, and I'm the games programmer. Also, my last name is Coster.
That's a pretty good last name. I have the same one.
Nice.
I'm Adam Coster, and I'm the rando of randomness.
Super weird because I also have the same last name.
Oh dear God.
What are the odds?
What?
I'm Sam, and I also make the art things.
Wait. What's your last name though?
It's the Coster.
Oh, okay.
It's the same.
It's the same.
Super weird, because I don't even have anything close to the same last name.
Coincidence.
What is even happening? I'm Carol Mertz, and I'm the nerd herder. Nerd
Although
herder.
your first name does start with a C.
It does.
It's close then.
So-
it's
some
very
letters.
close.
It
Yeah.
does.
And today is July 13th, 2016. Warning, anything can happen on this show. There's going to be profanity, definitely, and probably a lot of other horrifying things. So this show should not be listened to by children at
Or
all.
people who don't like horrifying things.
Yeah.
But
And
it's as the verb, right? Like to
they don't like
actually
to, yeah,
horrifying
right.
a thing.
Yeah, if you
To
don't
be a
like
scary
horrifying
person.
things, you should probably get out.
Yeah.
So, what's going on this week, guys?
Well, the office is super full. I don't know if people can hear the click-clackety of the keyboards.
The the gentle din.
Gentle din of a full office. Click-clacking in the
Click clacking
moonlight.
and din don't seem.
It's not really gentle. It's more like a herd of buffalo.
Well, so yeah, everybody's
Tiny
got
buffalo.
Everybody's got
on glass.
Tap dancing buffalo.
We got mechanical
Buffalo,
keyboards
buffalo.
on mechanical keyboards in here, and so the sound of people typing is phenomenal.
It's
I would
beautiful.
say. It produces a nice sort of almost like a white noise
Yeah.
when you come in the office where there's just
Yeah.
this.
But why is there so much more buffalo herding going on this week than
Well,
normal?
because Sher and Andy, who are our two new hires, just got here. So Andy got here on Wednesday of last week. That's why he couldn't be
on
the
podcast day after the recording of the podcast.
Right, and Sher got here on Monday morning.
So they're just cruising. They're off in the background, jamming, learning.
Is today Wednesday?
It is.
Today's Wednesday.
We're in time warp.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, we've only been in the office for 2 days, and it feels like it should be Friday by now.
Yeah.
So,
Not in this sort of like get us out of here sort of thing, but in that
We're doing so damn
there's a lot of
much.
things happening. Yeah, a lot of things
happening.
happening.
speaking of lots of things happening, Pokemon Go.
What's that?
What's that about?
Let's talk about that.
That's a thing that's happening.
I don't know, but I'm like level 14, and I've got a really, really badass executor who is currently holding a gym.
Is that executor?
Executor, probably.
Executor.
I like executor.
Executor is actually awesome as well. It's like a StarCraft unit.
So for those who don't know what Pokemon Go is or about,
If you've somehow been in a hole the
Yeah.
past 2 weeks, or I guess week now, it's just a week, right?
Just a week.
Time
Yeah.
warp.
yeah. So who's really into
Carol,
it?
let's hear
Carol?
it.
I'm pretty into
Carol's
it.
pretty into it. Let's give our listeners a very brief Pokemon Go
So,
synopsis.
Pokemon Go is an augmented reality game where it actually utilizes your GPS to track where you are and it projects images of Pokemon around you
This
so
is
that you
getting
can catch
really
them.
technical.
You can catch them.
Okay, that's better. Thanks.
You can catch cuties.
You can
You're just
catch-
gonna walk around and throw Pokeballs at cuties, just flick some balls around and
You catch them in the real world.
yeah,
That's the difference.
in real life.
Yeah. So this is super cool. You were outside for like 7 hours on Saturday or Sunday?
Yeah, so I've been doing Pokemon pub crawls with friends, and it's been a really great opportunity to just go out, hang out with some friends who I wouldn't otherwise be hanging out with. And then also the beauty of Pokemon Go is you meet so many strangers because there's something like the same active user base as Twitter at this point.
Right.
And so that's millions of people worldwide who are playing this game, and they're all outside, all doing the exact same thing that you're doing. And a lot of people are really upset about it because you look like an idiot when you're playing. But when you see somebody else who's playing, you're like, hey, gotta catch them all. And they're like, heck yeah. And then you start chatting, and it's like,
Yeah, you
suddenly you have all these
You
new
don't
stranger
think
friends.
they look like an idiot.
Yeah.
It's just they think they look like
It's
an
sort of
idiot.
like being in a secret club, right?
Yeah.
Like
A massive secret club.
massive secret club where everybody who's in the club thinks it's amazing, and
Yeah.
everybody who's watching is very confused because there's all these people who have their heads bent down, looking at their phones, wandering around.
in just random places.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was cool. We went out to a bar and grill last night, and we just, as we were driving, we saw maybe a half dozen people just walking along, various places on the way, and they just had their phones right up in their face, and they were just grinning and just kind of running around.
My favorite was
amazing.
like right as we were pulling up, two people were just sprinting up the road, grinning like idiots. And then we pull up, and Carol's like, "Oh my god, I caught a ponita!"
Well, I did. I was excited.
And we're like, we know where those people are going, right? They're doing the same thing.
I also caught a growlithe at the grocery store,
right.
which was cool.
There is a growlithe at Schnucks.
Yep.
In Olive. So if anybody, if you need to get
you
one
need
of
a
those.
growlithe.
Okay, so how does that work then? Like, is that
Nobody
Pokemon
knows.
just there? So if I go there, I'll see it.
So I will say,
Or what's the deal?
because I played it a bit over the weekend as well. This game has probably the least amount of built-in teaching of any sort of modern game that I've seen in a long time.
Also has no feedback whatsoever.
Yeah.
So, one of the easiest examples of this is when you go to catch one of the Pokemon, there's this ring that appears around them, and with a green ring inside of it, and that green ring,
Green or yellow or red, depending on the
depending
difficulty.
but it slowly contracts, and then once it gets completely gone, then it reappears at the outer edge of that ring. And the weird thing is, like, I read a pro tip thing where they're like, all right, so you want to catch it when the ring is as small as possible.
Yeah.
And
Right.
then
Is this like the modern day Up and B?
yeah, I
Right.
think it might be, because I talked to someone else and they were like, yeah, you really want to catch it when the ring is as big as possible.
Which makes the most
Right.
intuitive sense because like it feels like that you're trying to get the ball in the ring or
but
something.
it could
right?
also
Yeah.
be like you're trying to hit it at the very center of both of it. It's like a bullseye
Right, like-
versus a very open, like taking up all the
Right.
space.
Oh my God, this
Exactly.
is just a carnival game, isn't it?
It basically the whole thing.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing about it is, after playing it for a bit, people are still figuring out how it works, because the reality is that there's
Because there's no
little
feedback. So
and
there's actually
so
no
little
way to
teaching.
know
Yeah.
if
Now,
you're
is
right.
that by design? Because the developers knew that everybody's going to be bumping into each other all over the place and talking about it and
feel like
sharing
it
their
might be.
experiences.
I feel like
It's
it might be.
interesting because I've had a lot of people on the street stop me and ask me questions about the game and say, have you noticed this, or do you know how this works? And so that could actually be part of it.
If it's by
I
design,
suspect it's not by design,
Yeah.
but it's a good consequence of bad design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is actually, but that's actually an interesting point, right? If you have bad design, or think of like Sam and I tried to play Roguelands,
Yeah.
a couple nights ago, whenever that was, and we just couldn't figure out how to play this goddamn game. It's
a game
impossibly
on-
hard.
It's like a multiplayer roguelike that's on Steam.
Yeah,
So-
but what it caused us to do is we had to like work together really hard to figure out how to play this game. I had to talk about it a lot. It had to go like look on online resources, interact with other communities. And so the game itself, part of it was because of its poor feedback and onboarding, was that you had to basically socialize with other people to play the
That's
game.
how I feel about Minecraft, Terraria.
Yeah. Yep.
When you boot up Minecraft, you're not going to know that to make a bow, you got to put sticks in a particular
Right.
pattern and,
Right.
Whatever. There's no way to know that.
So it could actually be that having kind of weak onboarding,
It can be good.
maybe that's actually a good design principle.
At least for a multiplayer
for
game.
multiplayer games.
For a single player game, it's a kiss of death.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that's an interesting thing about it, though, because you refer to it as poor design, but the reality is it's kind of obfuscated design in reality, right? It's just sort of,
Is there a difference?
it's hard. There may be, I think the difference is in the thought behind it. If you do it on accident, then I think it's poor design, because you were trying to make it
Sure.
happen. You just got lucky with your own.
So
opaqueness,
the
I guess,
intention. So
of it.
even if the result is the same, it's the intention that matters.
I think
which
so.
is interesting because a player doesn't give a shit about the intention or know about it.
Yep. So
So
yeah,
how
it
are
has
we
to.
to
I guess it
know?
has to be designed for it to be considered good design. Otherwise, it's just an accident.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
and then you and Carol had a little outing.
By you, Seth
Yeah.
was pointing to
Sam
Sam,
and
but
Carol.
you all can't see that.
Oh yeah, we're in the same room now, which is a new thing.
So when we
for us.
gesticulate, you're all going to be very confused.
Yeah.
So,
I'm gesticulating wildly right now.
yeah,
She's not actually. She's just totally making this up.
So Carol and I yesterday went to local Girl Scouts. What was that?
It was like a summer. It was a summer tech camp that the
tech
Girl
camp.
Scouts.
Ew.
Well, it was
was-
so cool. Like, they had such a sweet space. I was shocked. Like,
Yeah.
the building there and everything, it's completely built out for them. And it's just like this. We walked in there and they were like building robots and just like hanging out and building really cool stuff.
Yeah.
I want to be in the Girl
And it was
Scouts.
this huge,
Right?
beautiful space. And I was like, oh, can I
just be here?
Yeah, and it was a really diverse group of girls. There were anywhere from probably 7 or 8 years old to 13 or 14. And they were all collaborating. They were all really excited to learn. And it was so cool to teach all these girls about about game dev because they wouldn't otherwise. I mean, this program, I guess, was giving them a lot of background in different kinds of technologies.
Yeah, I think they done robotics a couple days ago, and so some of them had come in early to like keep on working on the robots, which is super cool. And I'm not sure what else, but the person who organized it said that they had been looking for someone to come in and teach Scratch for game dev,
which is a program built by MIT to teach young kids how to develop programs. So
they've actually approached us, I think, like probably 9 months ago or something like that.
It was a long time ago.
Asking if we would be willing to do a program. And so we finally carved out the time for it. We were actually there for 3 hours, so 9 to noon yesterday, and we rewrote the Game Maker tutorial, which feels a little.
It's probably the same as it's been for 10 years. I mean, it's
So the weird thing about it is that game dev is super enjoyable because of the fact that you get to iterate. And so you build a thing, hit play, and see if it works, and then add some stuff or subtract some stuff, and you just keep on building like that. And that's how we do all of our stuff here. And that's really the feedback loop that makes it very essentially addictive as a hobby versus some other things. But the way that they had structured that tutorial originally, essentially you coded and sort of worked in the engine for about probably like 45 minutes before you ever hit play.
You
and then
built
the game
it
was just
all
done.
without ever seeing it.
Yeah, no feedback
So
at all.
you don't get because that's the whole way of learning programming. The reason programming is one of the most amazing things to do is that instantaneous feedback by making a change, hitting go, making a change, hitting go.
It was
it was very interesting because the tutorial had all of the information, and it was very well. It wasn't poorly communicated or anything like that.
But you
It's
have to
essentially
build the whole
structure.
thing.
Yeah, the structure was essentially wrong, in my opinion, for actually teaching it. And so, we rewrote it. And
was it structured so that they just didn't tell you to do it, or would it have been impossible if you like hit play partway through, it just wouldn't do anything?
It wouldn't
have
have
done
worked because they didn't.
I think you didn't put anything in the room until the very end.
Oh, so you have to build the whole machine to see.
Right.
Yeah, so we built it basically backwards.
Yeah, almost completely backward.
It was so cool though because every time we would play it and there was a bug that we had intentionally put in there to teach them something, they would be like, "Excuse me, this is happening. Why is this happening?" And we're like, "We'll get to that."
Yeah.
And it was an extra opportunity to reinforce why we were learning the way that we were learning. It was so cool to see that.
And that learning by having errors is actually the way you do it.
Exactly. Like, why is it doing this? Instead of just, okay, I'm doing this. I don't know why.
Now look what I did.
But now it just magically works, and I don't know why it did that.
Yeah. I think my favorite part is we wrapped up the tutorial about probably 11:20 or so. So we had about 40 minutes where we told all the girls to just make up some stuff and try to build something else with the tools we've given you. And one of them was very excited about making the characters, who in this game are just bouncing around within a sort of confined box, about making them so that when they contact each other that they eat each other. And she really wanted to basically make Agar.io, right, which is the game in which you play as a circle, and then depending on your size you can eat other circles and grow.
Not a lot of time was spent on the graphics.
Correct. And so she's like, I really want to turn this into this. So the interesting thing about that is that she could essentially forecast what we had built, which is this very simple, completely uncontrolled, guy bouncing around that you click on. She sort of was able to forecast that into, this is essentially one of the building blocks for something like Agar.io. And
she's hooked now.
Yeah, she was so pumped.
It's over.
We'd work with her for a little bit and get her, I showed her how to edit the sprite. So she remade the sprite into a green guy instead of a red guy and used that as a, oppositional figure. And then once she got them to eat each other, she came sprinting over to wherever I was working with someone else and was just so jazzed.
Yeah, she was stoked.
She was like, "It works!" And she went right back. So that's always really fun to see. That was super worth it. It was very tiring though. I think Carol and I both got back and just kind of slumped.
You guys got back at noon or something.
Yeah, it was a long morning.
Yeah, well, I mean, this comes right back to
session.
this sort of time dilation feeling where it felt like probably for you guys, it felt like you had done an entire day's worth of stuff, and then you came back and it's only halfway done.
You expend so much energy teaching, especially teaching. There was like 30 girls.
I think 25. 25, yeah.
And it just, you have to bounce around from girl to girl to make sure everybody's keeping up. And then you have to make sure that you spend the time with the girls who aren't having an easy time to keep up, make sure that they understand and all these things. I had flashbacks. I taught 8 weeks at the Youth Learning Center here in St. Louis, teaching game design to a small group of kids. It was 8 kids at the Youth Learning Center that I was teaching. Even that, every single week, after just an hour, I would be out. And this was 3 hours with 25 girls.
Yeah. So kudos to all you teachers out there.
How you do it, nobody knows.
All right, so other things going on. I have just 2 things from my personal life that I want to share. One is what appears to be some sort of
Chocolate demon?
Chocolate demon that has attached itself to my backside. I know it sounds like I'm talking about
Sounds like a
some
good
digestive problem.
It may be a euphemism.
It may be useful, but it's not.
Which is
it's not.
actually even more amazing.
Right. So
So we got to go back to the beginning.
let's take it
Start
back.
the story at the beginning.
So about 2 years ago, we decided to buy phones through Butterscotch. And I got a new phone and was very excited about it. And it also happened to be the case that I think somewhere between 4 and 7 days after buying this new phone, I had been eating some Hershey's Kisses. And I put one of them in my pocket. And
Which
then-
is already...
You never do. Never
Yeah.
do
Terrible
this.
idea.
They are not
'Cause
securely
it turns out
packaged.
even in the
your
absence
body
of
is
all the other
hot.
parts of this discussion, why did you put that
Well,
in?
that was mistake number one. Right. So we're going to gloss over that. But
Like a child.
so I was carrying candies in my pocket like a child. And at the end of the day, I pull out my phone, and it just has a thick coating of chocolate just completely over the bottom sort of quarter of the phone around where the audio jack is.
Because you just you made a fondue pot in your
my
pocket,
pocket, and
and you
had
just
no
dunked
idea.
your phone in there.
So I pull this phone out, and I'm shocked that it's covered in chocolate, because who does that happen to? And then get it cleaned up, but the audio jack never works, and the buttons are a little wonky. So 2 years go by, and finally we have, through our plan, are able to get
Well,
an
and
upgraded phone.
your phone has been degrading
Yeah,
this whole
it was
time.
sort of breaking anyways.
Well, maybe not anyway. It might have been.
It may have been chocolate related, but I'm going to maintain that it was something else. But yeah, so we get a new phone this past week, right?
Because your microphone eventually stopped working,
Completely
which
stopped working.
makes a phone less useful.
Yeah, it also happens to be down near where the chocolate happened on that phone. So
Where the chocolate happens.
yeah, I'm stepping some distance
You're
away.
moving responsibility
The
downstream on this
sequel
one.
to Where the Wild Things Are, I believe.
So I get this new phone. I'm gonna say I'm gonna take full responsibility. I got this new phone, and drove up to Iowa this past weekend to visit the fam. Came back to St. Louis, and on the drive back up, I'd given my phone to my fiance while I was driving, so she could find a podcast to listen to. And while she was waiting for the phone to load, she just sat the phone next to her on the car seat. And of course, we're driving, so there's bumps and stuff. And so after a few minutes, I say, "Oh, did the podcast load?" And she looks down, and the phone is gone. And she says, I don't know where your phone went. And then she sits up, and there it is, and it's sort of jammed into the back sort of crease of the seat where the back meets the bottom. And she pulls it out, and lo and behold, the bottom of it is somehow covered in chocolate again, and the entire thing. So it looks exactly the same as it did the first time this happened 2 years ago,
demon.
in the same time frame for me getting a new phone. And
You're
so
cursed.
I feel cursed. And then yesterday when we get to this pub, I get
Sam
out
was
of
the
the car.
passenger
this is
seat
in-
of my car.
This is an Adams car.
This is in my car now.
So now this
Where
is an
we know-
environment that
we've
Sam has
moved out
no.
of the domain Sam has control over.
And there's been no chocolate in Adam's car. And also, I ate chocolate earlier in the day, but for the record, we sit on these bungee chairs, which you can't. There's no way anything can
Get
sit
on
on
them.
there with you, because they're essentially a bunch of
It'll just
slats.
fall through.
Some things could rest, perhaps, on a bungee
Perhaps,
strap.
but
Precariously.
I was eating the chocolate, and then I was done. I don't know. I'm so dubious about how this happened, but I get up, and there's chocolate now melted into Adam's seat from my thighs, the bottom of my thighs. And I get up, and Adam starts yelling about how there's chocolate in his car, and then we look, and there's a chocolate mass on my back leg.
Oh yeah, the back of your right leg.
Like, what is happening to me?
yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
this chocolate demon is somehow related to that demon that lives in the dryer that takes your
Takes your
sock.
socks.
Could be.
Probably first cousins or something, you know?
I was saying there's a children's book about this. I'm pretty sure it was called Chocolate Pox, and it was just like the King Midas story,
Chocolate
where
Pox.
you touch stuff and it just becomes chocolate.
Was pox short for pocket?
Well, in this case, it would be.
Chocolate pox. So yeah, I got the chalk pox.
Apparently.
I'm not so sure about the cure, but I'm really hoping that at least the symptoms die down in the coming weeks.
I'm thinking maybe that it was that first episode where you put the thing in your pants.
Are you talking about
Put the chocolate in your pants.
which thing we talking about?
when you purposely
How far back we going
when you
here?
purposely put the chocolate in your pants. And
You
then
think that was
warmed
a
it up.
summoning
I think-
ritual?
Yeah, I think this was a summoning, because like nobody would do that. It doesn't make any sense, right?
Unless-
What chance did
it's
you?
never been
It's
done
never
before.
been done before, and it's probably because whenever it has been done, it's always summoned a demon.
So it's why when parents tell
Mm.
their children, they say, "Oh yeah, don't put those chocolates in your pocket." It's not because they
pants,
melt,
yeah.
even though that
They don't
does
remember
happen.
why. It does happen.
It's because it summons the chocolate demon.
And really, so M&M's, like what the candy layer does is actually
It
just
contains the demon.
Contains the demon.
so that they don't
So that-
melt.
yeah, so you can eat it first so that the demon doesn't get released.
Yeah. So we've all been actually safely protected from the chocolate demon for eons. Actually,
Sam has released it.
I have brought this calamity into our lives, and I apologize.
You
it's
somehow
fine.
figured out the proper spell.
there are worse demons to summon.
I suppose.
It seems like it's a low level deal.
Yeah, but here's the thing,
probably
though.
level
It's
6.
becoming more aggressive over time.
Yeah.
It's true.
It is
is.
gaining XP.
yeah,
It's
gaining XP.
Soon it will take over all of Sam's persona, and Sam will just exist as the chocolate demon.
Sam will come into work. He'll sit down. He'll be jamming. on
chocolate
something, all of a
syrup
sudden,
would just go flying out.
he'll look down and his pants are chocolate.
Yeah, so
There'll be chocolate oozing down his monitor as he types.
I appear to be slowly being overtaken by.
I think
The
isn't
chocolate
this
demon.
what
like
the
a horror
movie
movie.
The Grudge is about?
Probably.
Or the ring.
So I'll be showering and a chocolate hand will help me. Just come in and help me shampoo briefly. and
You
go
just
away.
grab a finger and just start gnawing on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
Chocolate
doesn't sound-
handprints on
Berry.
the
This is, I
mirror.
don't know if it sounds too bad.
It's a blurs.
Yeah, it's a blurs.
It's a blurs.
It's blurs, definitely.
Blursing.
Blurs. I've been blurred by the chocolate.
Blursed by the chocolate
Saint
demon.
Cadbury.
St. Cadbury. St. Cadbury saved me from the chocolate derby.
So the last bit of news we have, otherwise, aside from whatever that was, is that we're going to be probably doing some tweaks to the podcast format. We missed a few weeks because of all the office turmoil. And now that we're back and we're now the 6-person studio and everything, we have to probably make some changes to keep this thing going and keep it feasible and interesting. So what are we doing? What's our plan?
I don't know.
We don't know yet.
Does
Yeah,
anyone
that's
know?
the problem. We don't have a plan, but we are going to make a plan.
Yeah,
The plan is to make a plan.
the plan is to have Carol make a plan.
Hey, that's my job now.
We're passing the buck.
Still not sick of that joke.
You know what that reminds me of? Pass the Buck, a game of corporate responsibility management.
Now
by
available
Carol
on
Mertz.
Amazon.com.
Yeah, it's a good game.
Thank you.
Yeah, so because we want to do a sort of fresh rotation of everybody in the studio, but also have stability of certain people on the show all the time. So we want to get Andy and Sharon here probably next week or the week after to kind of get in and have everybody get a feel for their vibe because they're pretty goofy.
They're
and
pretty
fun people.
vibey.
And they both have really awesome accents.
Yes. Yeah. Southern accent and a Chinese accent, which I feel like we were talking about this the other day about how you slowly mimic people over the course of a conversation.
How's this
And
going to end up?
I don't know, because we already have a weird accent, and then
Who are you calling weird?
So we have been told
things are gonna get
by people
get
who
weird.
think they are less weird than they are.
So everyone.
Yeah, whenever
Everyone.
I notice whenever we play Rocket League with everybody, we all start
It gets
taking on each
really
other's
southern.
accents.
Yeah.
I feel like driving a car with a rocket on it sort of trends you toward the south in your mindset.
No offense, Andy.
No, it's a compliment of the highest
All right, so with all that news out of the way,
It's question time.
question time. All right, so questions today come from quite a few people and also quite a few new people. So we're gonna try
Noops.
We'll be playing around with some of these.
Noopeeps.
We're getting a good mix of sort of weird philosophical questions and then just goofy, easy, short ones. So we'll throw everybody in with the first question by Alan Falcon, who says,
We need to start nicknaming these people who ask questions all the time.
Alfal.
who says,
Alkfalkfen.
a funny tall guy once said that the highest ideals are human intelligence, creativity, and love. What are your highest ideals?
Carol. I'll take it. So I would agree with that, but I have always been affected by something an elementary school teacher taught me, or I guess in middle school. I was probably 11.
Was this elementary school a funny tall guy?
He was.
Oh,
I don't even remember his name.
Abraham
but
Lincoln.
that could be it. Could be it.
Could be.
It was in some sort of an academic kind of a stretch class so that it was teaching us all how to think a little bit harder than 11-year-olds are typically told to think.
Which is not
And
super hard.
There was one class where he spent the entire day talking about respect and how if everybody respected one another, we would all get along. And like the world would be a better place because everything good is based on respect. You don't even have to like each other. You don't have to love each other. You just have to respect each other and respect certain, learning opportunities and respect certain other kinds of opportunities. It's just...
I think that's true.
Is it kind of like the ideal of, at least tolerating people not because of maybe things that you disagree with, but because of the sharedness of the human experience, I guess?
I suppose, yeah. It's a matter of understanding and empathizing and respecting that other people have different values and beliefs.
Well,
and
it is the case that if you have a conversation with somebody who you have a general sense that they respect you and vice versa, then something that they say, which you might normally be potentially a negative thing, you're going to automatically, give them the benefit of the doubt, right? So if somebody criticizes something that you've done, but you know that they respect you as a person, then you're going to take that more as a sort of constructive criticism as opposed to sort of finding the negative thing in what they said, right? So even that alone sort of boosts your interactions with people.
Cool. So you would add respect to that list of
yes,
three.
that's the moral
How
of
about
my-
curiosity?
That's a good one. Yeah.
I mean, that kind of comes hand in hand with intelligence.
and
'cause,
creativity.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like curiosity feels like its own separate entity in that regard. Because that's the drive to figure out stuff.
To learn.
How about cynicism? No, that's a bad one. That's not good.
I think like respect.
I think empathy is the only one you need.
Yeah. Because empathy to me sounds like actually it's the basis of
Respect.
It's the basis of love, creativity, curiosity. I don't know about intelligence. I've met some intelligent people who completely lack empathy. So
Then are they really intelligent?
Ooh.
They have emotional intelligence is a different
From
thing.
Thing.
intellectual.
EI. Yeah.
And he's creeping down the stairs right now to try not to make any noise.
Want to disturb them?
That was Andy on the microphone.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So that's not a super high order at all for us to all try to hit those, I guess, right?
No, it's super easy.
Easy.
Yeah,
Intelligence, creativity, love, empathy, respect.
Just be the ultimate human.
Done.
Piece of cake.
All right, guys.
Superhumans, all of us.
We solved it. Next question comes from Dombrowski. Have you ever started an impromptu song where people just start adding their own part until you have a sweet ass song?
I don't know, Sam. What do you think?
I don't know, Kara.
That was a sweet ass song.
That
you
was-
guys.
That was the best ass song.
It was an ass song. I don't know about the sweetness part of it, but
But it's an ass song.
it was an ass
Clearly,
song.
this was clearly a prompt for that to happen.
Well, I think it's interesting because we talked about this earlier, but I mean, everybody, now the office is full. There's a lot of screaming.
A lot of screaming.
The blood curdling type.
Yes. And there's a lot of, I guess, just, generally loud, happy interaction. So people come in the morning, they yell from upstairs. Everybody downstairs yells. If
Then we
someone's-
put them in the training dungeon, and then they scream bloody murder.
Yeah. The blood curdling cries start.
I broke out of the training dungeon early.
Yeah.
Yeah. Carol escaped.
That's one of the first tests. Can you escape from the training dungeon? Then your training's over. That's just how it works. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's been hilarious being in the office with everybody. I mean, we did this even when it was just Seth and I in his apartment.
It was loud.
Right when we started, you finish something and you just scream because it's done.
Or you're in the middle of something and you scream because you're in the middle of something.
Yeah.
Really, there's plenty of good reasons to scream.
Or you're about to start
Or
something
sing.
and
or
you scream.
sing, or sing, or squelch. As
Says Adam.
No, you have locked that down. I appreciate that.
For the most part. You also wear your soundproofing headphones.
This is true.
With high
Adam,
frequency.
first he will glance over and notice that Sam's headphones on, and then just emit squelches nonstop.
Those are scream belches for those of you who are uninitiated. It's when as the scream comes out, you
As
also
the belch comes out.
as the belch comes out, you also just vocalize as much
the
as
belch
possible.
is the part you control. The scream is unintentional.
It's
Sort of like my
horrifying.
scream sneezes.
Yeah, that's right.
Screezes.
Screezes. Yeah, people who screeze always weird me out. Carol does the other day.
That's when somebody's like,
loud. You sneeze and you just vocalize on top of it.
I'm more like,
You know what? Something people don't do a lot of?
What?
Fart screaming.
oh, I do that. I do plenty of that, just
What
not
about-
at the office.
Have you done fart coughing? Where you
Oh.
cough so hard
That's a risky one though, because
What?
that quickly leads to cough sharding.
And snarting. Snarting is a really easy
Snarting.
thing to do accidentally.
Sneeze fart.
Sneeze fart?
Yes,
These are
I have
getting
a
really hard to portmanteau.
No, snarting is amazing.
Wait, which one's starting again?
Sneeze
Sneeze
farting.
farting.
Okay.
One time I was petting my cat. She's just like sitting on my lap, looking adorable as hell, and then she goes, and I just look at her. I go, "Did you just snart?"
And she
she's
said
like,
nothing.
As you started the
No, she
story
meows a lot.
with the cat in your lap, I was like, "Who is it?"
Who's gonna
"Gonna
snort?
do it," but I was like,
I was hoping
she
it was going to be both.
snorted, and it was the cutest snart in the entire world.
I don't know.
And I feel so honored
feel like
to
that's
have
still
bore
not
witness.
very cute. You know, like a cute snart, I feel like is at the bottom of the list of cute things.
Yeah.
It's so cute.
Yeah, that's a rough area to be in on the cuteness spectrum, in like the
Below
snart,
the snart
area.
zone.
The snart zone.
Maybe that's what we should call it. When someone's trying to be cute and it's just not cute. Like one of those little
It's
kids who's
about
like,
a
I'm a
snart.
dog all the time. And you're like,
Nope,
stop.
you're in the snart
You're in the
zone.
snart zone.
You're basically a walking snart.
I mean, it's only cute when it's a kitty.
It's true.
That's true of almost anything a cat can do, actually.
Yeah, if somebody walks into your house and just says, fuck this glass, and they just knock it off your shelf and break it.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, and the cat does, you're like, you doggone kitty.
yes.
Knocking glasses off.
All right, so we're
So yes, answer yes. We make sweet ass songs.
What was the question? Oh, yes. Right, okay.
Snarts,
got away from us a little bit. So next question comes from Angry Muffin. And short story about Angry Muffin. We'd interacted briefly on Twitter a while ago, and he had this hilarious Angry Muffin drawing for his picture. This happened to be when I was working on art stuff, and so
which is always.
and now at least, and so
Should be.
I thought, hey, I'm just gonna draw this thing because drawing an Angry Muffin sounds like a thing
amusing.
I should do, and so I did it, and then just sent him the files for it, and he was super pumped. So his little avatar is now an Angry Muffin from us. But he asked a question, which is that he said, "Is the art that Sam Burrs in your Twitter post for a new multiplayer Quadrupus game?" And I thought we could talk a little bit about that stuff.
Let's talk about
Codename new game.
Codename
that stuff.
Codename Brunch.
How much should we be
I'd say you'd
revealing?
be,
All of it.
All of it. Why not? Let's just go. The podcast is, these are our people.
That's true.
People don't talk to other people about things on the podcast.
Yeah, but they should, because it helps us to grow the podcast.
Yeah,
And
please
so
share this podcast with all your friends
share
and
it, like
family.
it.
But
Give
don't
reviews,
tell them
give ratings.
anything in it.
Don't tell them about it. Just tell them.
Because
Just make
otherwise-
them listen to it.
The secret will be out.
Take them to your training dungeon.
Strap them in.
Teach them about the podcast.
I don't like where this is going. I'm just gonna be honest.
Okay, so all right. So before we talk about what we want to do for the next game, I have to preface it with a warning, which is literally none of this is going to be in the final game.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is on a very early prototypey stage. So we want to capitalize on the cool kind of world building stuff that we did in Crashlands, but really take a much bigger focus on that. So we're going to combine procedural generation with handcrafted environments, like what we did in Crashlands. We're going to take it to the next level. So
What is the next level?
The next level is to actually make a place that in Crashlands you kind of bounce between these biomes, and they feel like kind of unique environments, but they at the same time, because they're just kind of infinite sameness, they don't really feel like a real place. Because what makes a place feel real is having really interesting geographic landmarks
be
and
stable.
towns and stability. Yeah.
Well, and something that's a shared experience.
Yeah.
Because because the randomness is just interesting enough in Crashlands that there are in any given game there'll be a massive lake or a huge tar pit,
But the problem
or
is-
a big just barren wasteland or whatever. But everyone finds that in a different place if they find it at all, and so there aren't shared landmarks that people can then talk about and remember and so on.
Right. So we're going to try to capture that by blending what we did in Crashlands with some new stuff that we have yet to develop. But it's basically going to amount to having an established world map that's going to be really, really big. Sam has already drawn up the first prototype or the first draft of that map, and it's looking fantastic.
And can I just say, after our pubbing last night, Andy and I were talking because we actually Andy is a global information systems. Is that what it's called? Geographic information systems.
He's a geographer.
He's a geographer. And so we were chatting last night, and of course I made this map while he was here and then proudly presented it. I was like, look at this map I made. And then last
He
night,
said it was cool, but internally he was like, "That's a shit map."
Garbage.
last night he was like, hey, you gonna be working on that map again before this thing on Friday where you're putting new work together for the game? And I said, yeah, I mean, at some point I'll probably revisit it. He was like, cool, because I can make it geographically accurate if you want. And I said, yes.
Wait, in what fashion?
So, well, apparently, because, depending on your distance from the equator, from what my brief conversation, from what I understand, distance from the equator, as well as, what oceans and bodies of water and stuff are available to you, is what ends up determining what biomes are available in the continent that you're in. And so, apparently, they would get tests where the professor would just draw a fake continent somewhere on the world and then be like, tell me outline where all the biomes would be given this continent, given whatever mountain ranges.
Yeah, what you did is you basically drew a shape and then said, here's this biome, here's this one, and here's that one, with complete disregard to that making any sense.
And I mean, it is a video game, so we will have some disregard to make things more interesting. But it would be cool. But, I mean, having those extra constraints actually helps a ton as far as figuring out where stuff is.
But I think also probably people just intuitively, because they go out and experience the world, at least now that Pokemon Go exists. And they kind of have an intuitive understanding of what's a realistic environment given where they are and that kind of thing. So because I know like World of Warcraft does a great job of this, where you walk up and also there's a mountain and it feels like a natural progression. And even when you go from a kind of a dark, creepy biome, into a light one, the way that they transition is really good. Yeah. And that probably has the same kind of underlying basis.
Yeah. So this is what we're talking about with taking things to the next level, is really taking a lot of deep thought into trying to create something that feels like a more tangible world. We're also developing some new character sort of alien races that we're going to be encountering, as well as using some of the old ones and bringing, expanding their story and their lore and everything. So that's
the quadrupeds are one of them. So you will be playing as quadruped again.
So I'm not going to say anything about the gameplay just yet.
It's a little rough and tumble. I mean, so we know how the combat's going to work. We know the basics. We don't know how literally everything else, which is going to be the meat of the game, actually works.
And the basics might change.
They might change.
Yep.
At this point, it uses a similar sort of telegraph system as Crashlands, but is much more.
Well, in Crashlands, you yourself don't really use telegraphs. You would click on an enemy, your character would run over there and just start whacking the enemy. And when you tapped on a bomb or something, it would just fling the bomb at the enemy. And there wasn't really much in the way of sort of skill-based combat from a general aiming kind of perspective. You just pick the target and then hit buttons, and your character fought it.
It's more like you play as a complicated creature or a boss from Crashlands, as far as having these different telegraph attacks that you try to hit things with. Yeah,
and so timing is going to become a thing.
Positioning is important.
Yep. So you'll hit an ability and you kind of aim it, and you'll have maybe a half second to a second or something to get it lined up properly to where you think the enemy is going to be. When the attack lands or whatever. Right. We're gonna have a really flexible ability system. We'll try to reveal some stuff as things get a little bit more settled, but because we're in heavy training mode and still wrapping up some things with Crashlands and stuff, then we aren't able to put 100% full time into it yet. But we'll trickle some info out.
And you put it in maybe a few hours a week, probably. Is that fair? Yeah. I mean, both of you between art and game design.
Sam's on it a lot, quite a bit.
Yeah, actually quite a bit. So maybe we should actually just try, because this is impossible to do over a podcast, to describe a game that doesn't exist. Yeah. So maybe what we should do is, instead of trying to answer these questions here,
do some dev blogs,
do some, not even blogs, just do some video series.
Oh yeah.
Have a weekly video series or something where one or the two of you or some person in the group
working on
just shows the thing they're working on related to the next game, with always that big disclaimer: this will actually be in the game. But that would be a fun thing to do.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Super Dan.
I like it.
Right. Yeah.
Next question comes from Surgemon Striker.
Surgemon.
Assuming that is that? Surgemon Striker? Said, your games are awesome and very fun and addicting. How do you come up with
and the art's phenomenal?
Yeah, you skipped that part.
How do you come up with such brilliant masterpieces? And I actually want to ask this question. Given that, Carol, you've been in the studio just for a couple weeks now, and you've seen us brainstorm about stuff and chat and all that stuff. I guess what's your take on the way that we
How do you think
develop
we
things?
make such brilliant masterpieces?
What's my take on your brilliance?
I'm not trying to ask about the brilliance. I'm just curious about your
Tell
take
us
on
really
the process.
nice things about
Just
ourselves.
like the work process.
Yeah.
So it's been really interesting and about what I expected, honestly, from having known you all for a few years now. It's been extraordinarily collaborative. And I like the way that somebody will come up with an idea, pitch it, and everyone will just build on it. And we do that even regardless of game design ideas, I've noticed. Even after we demoed at the First Fridays event at the Science Center, we talked about the demo and then we just started throwing out ideas. Everybody started throwing out ideas to make it better and more effective. And the same thing goes for the games. So you'll talk about the lore and we'll all be like, oh my God, that's great. Yeah. And then we could also do this.
if, right.
And then, oh my gosh, what if we do this thing? And it's like going to be so cool.
We basically
Sorry, that's
sound like-
mostly me. And then we could talk about all this cool stuff.
So we kind of sound like
5-year-olds.
hyper 5-year-olds, but with skills to actually do the things that we are talking about.
Supposedly.
One thing I think that it's an important thing that we try to do is nobody gets attached to an idea. So we do have these really just zany brainstorming sessions, but nobody walks away from that going, if these fuckers don't put my idea in the game, I'm out of here, you know? Because we throw ideas out there, whatever seems cool and seems to work with whatever else is going on in the game. Hopefully it makes it in, but most of our ideas never make it into anything because we just don't have enough time or power or anything. So, we all have to just be okay with throwing 1,000 ideas out there and having 995 of them.
Well, even when somebody starts with an idea, it gets distorted so quickly by everybody else's participation that, there just is no idea ownership.
It becomes the group's idea instead of an individual's.
I think it's the interesting thing.
We're just a hive mind.
Yeah, we've seen that from all the other games we've developed. As soon as whenever we put them out, or even just a few weeks into dev, they really lose. So it's weird because you get a sense of collective ownership, but not of personal ownership, if that makes sense. So when Crashlands came out, for example, we're looking at it. I think each of one of us from a different angle, looking at this game, seeing people play it. But it's weird because it actually feels slightly alien because
It feels like somebody else made it.
Feels like somebody else made it.
and that somebody else is essentially the combined sort of entity.
It's Butterscotch shenanigans.
yeah, exactly. Which is super cool.
I think you get that with a lot of creative media, though. I've talked to even independent filmmakers who work almost exclusively alone, and they still feel like once the project is done, it's no longer theirs.
Right. It sort of has its own life
Yeah.
at that point.
And with art, a lot of times people will look back at it and sort of think, wow, I didn't remember working on that. I don't remember doing that. How could anybody be so
Well, you can't
brilliant
remember
as
all
to
the
make this
little-
beautiful masterpiece?
Well, I think it's because anything that's really big like that is just made up of lots of tiny little pieces, and you're only ever working on the little pieces at a time. Like you can't just make a whole game, like that. You have to do little bits at a time, and you just don't remember those
Yeah, you
individual
start
things.
Losing that connection with the ultimate.
Yeah. So when it's
goal.
done, you don't sit there and think, I made that. You think, well, I made this, then I made this, then that. Then
Well, not even. You go backwards. You can remember the things you just made, and then you forget
Everything.
So you just think, oh, I just made this one final piece, and look at this cool thing that now exists, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny, I think, because the final creature that I made for Crashlands was the Gulanti, which is the last one you see in the tundra. And by the time
the Gulanti and the Gallum, I can never remember which one's which. Which one's the
the sort of
Gulanti?
giraffe, the electric giraffe.
Okay.
Because I hadn't, the time between me making it and seeing it implemented and then actually seeing it in game was so long
Probably
that I'd
several
forgotten.
months.
Yeah, I'd completely forgotten about it. And it just scared the shit out of me when I saw it. I came across it, and it was one of the
pretty
special
terrifying.
ones, and so it was
Yeah.
aggressive, and it was just trying to murder
You're
me.
like, how did this get here?
Who put this here? Which is hysterical. Yeah, the fact that it can get that big or far away that you can kind of re-experience it, I think is really, really neat.
Yeah.
All right, so let's hit the next question. This one comes from Danold.
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 Which is in reference to another podcast he loves. If you had the choice to throw cold spaghetti at anybody in the world, who would each of you choose? The idea being it's non-violent, but can still send a message.
What other podcasts?
Wait a minute. Is this with sauce or is it just the
I
noodles?
think it's just the noodles. It's just a pile of noodles.
Well,
Maybe it's sauce.
I'd like to just have some thrown at me. 'Cause
I would
that's,
throw
that's
cold
free
spaghetti.
spaghetti, you know?
Yeah.
And it's cold. You could add sauce to it, heat it up. Boom.
Or you can just put it right in the refrigerator because it's already at refrigerator temperature.
Catch it with the Tupperware and move on.
Yeah.
So I guess the answer is yourself.
I would, yeah.
No, I wouldn't. I'm gluten intolerant, so I'll throw it at all of you.
Carol start hissing.
So actually, it would be sort of
Snarting.
It would be kind of a violent behavior to throw spaghetti noodles at a gluten intolerant person.
Yeah.
That would be
It's
horrible.
disrespectful because they're like,
Unless
these look
they-
so good, but I can't
Yeah.
participate.
And if they were corn noodles, maybe they were made of corn
Do
flour.
they do those? Is that
Yeah.
good?
Yes.
That sounds
I
delicious.
actually, when I'm rereading this question,
What?
the last part of this is it's non-violent, but still sends a message. Is it really true that if you just throw fucking cold spaghetti at somebody?
It's a little violent.
Yeah, I think that's a
Well,
little
it's-
violent.
It is doing some violence.
It doesn't
not
do
in
a lot of harm.
Yeah, correct.
But I don't think harm and
It's not
violence are
harmful.
the same thing.
It's like the shotgun bean bags from
yeah,
the police, right?
It's like
That's
it'll be okay.
harmful.
Well, it's not going to kill a man.
It could, but yeah,
Maybe,
very rare.
probably.
cases. Those beanbags come out pretty
it's
fast.
less. What's the term?
Less lethal.
Less lethal. Is it? Yeah, that's something like that.
Oh god.
I watched a lot of Flashpoint, which is a fucking amazing TV show made by Canadians.
So cold spaghetti. Cold spaghetti is basically a less.
It's
lethal,
a less lethal, yeah.
violent.
unless you're gluten intolerant, in which case it's probably
I
more
just say
lethal
though,
than
now
a lot
that
of
I'm thinking
things.
about it, I kind of wish that police officers would adopt this approach instead of the beanbags.
Throwing cold
Just
spaghetti.
throw spaghetti.
Yeah, you know,
They
you
just
get
have buckets of cold spaghetti.
civil unrest. There's rioters.
like,
Just
spaghetti.
just whip some noodles at them.
Because you're not going to be doing anything that looks, violent or rebellious when you're just draped in cold noodles.
And well, yeah,
They
I
have to
feel,
wear
I feel
chef
like
hats
it's
while they're doing it.
I feel like because it diffuses the situation if somebody just flings wet noodles onto you, right? Because it's so absurd, you can't be mad about it anymore.
Yeah, unlike tear gas.
Which is less absurd.
Okay, but if you
It
could,
hurts your face.
So going back to the spirit of the question, which is okay, if you had to pick a person to throw noodles on, in the sense of a disapproval noodle throw,
Disapproval noodle.
a disapproval noodle,
Can you
who
throw
would go
noodles
as that?
onto a dead person?
Sure.
Well, I guess Hitler then.
I feel like that's just a cop out.
Yeah, it's been a
Cop
cop
out.
out.
Anytime historical figures reference, just take him out of the equation. It's just
Just don't throw it.
he's just
yeah.
always the
don't-
guy.
Right
So
now,
you're telling
I
me I can't throw noodles at Hitler?
What do you feel?
I still hold fast to my cold noodles at Seth thing.
I'll take them. That's free
It's
noodles.
actually probably the most non-violent approach you could take because he wants those noodles.
He really wants the noodles.
Those noodles.
I just want to
noodles.
see what Seth looks like covered in cold noodles.
It might make me look like I have hair.
Yeah.
I might get a noodle wig.
Get some noodle dreads.
We'll look like
Yeah.
twinsies.
Yeah, blonde noodle dreads.
I guess noodles are blonde. That makes sense.
Yeah, unless they're
buckwheat
buckwheat.
or that green shit.
Are there buckwheat noodles?
There are buckwheat
What's
noodles.
buckwheat, anyways?
Darker wheat
I don't think it's actual wheat.
made from buck horns.
What?
it's antlers.
It's antlers, which may be
Very
gluten free.
crunchy.
They would be in that case. Yeah.
High calcium, probably.
we did
also.
find out that Carol can eat Cheetos.
I'm so excited.
For all you gluten-free people, Cheetos are gluten-free. Go hard.
Go hard.
Are they,
Go
like,
ham.
are they gluten free to the max? So
It says it on the back.
It says on the
Oh,
bag.
fuck yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice work, Cheetos.
That reminds me. Yesterday I
that?
said go ham around the Girl Scouts, and I immediately regretted saying
Ham.
a little girl should go ham on something.
Well, I reminded Carol, I was like, most people don't understand
That it's
that's
an
an
acronym?
abbreviation. Yeah, an acronym for hard as a motherfucker.
It is.
No, I didn't know that was true.
It is.
I just thought it was a weird thing people
Carol told the
say.
8-year-old, go ham on that go ham, you bamps. Which is amazing.
Peace.
Excellent. All right, next question comes from Baxtor. Whoa.
Bax tour.
Who asks, Baxtor, would you ever consider a team building exercise / game jams other than within your time zone? Wait, this person's from the UK. Carol, can you read this in your UK voice?
Would you ever consider a team building exercise or game jams other than within your time zone? This
is great.
I'm from the UK, and short of flying over to get a decent team high five during an event, would you all consider travel to the other side of the pond?
Thanks, Bax tour.
I'm going to be honest, the ocean is larger than a pond.
It is a long trip.
Yeah, who the fuck started calling it the pond?
The pond. It's a big pond.
Yeah, I feel like that was a thing maybe during the colonial period. The British were like, you're just across the pond. So don't go.
We got our
fucking-
eyes
we got
on
our eyes
you.
But at
We
that
can
time,
never-
it took like 3 weeks to get
I
across
know,
that
but
pond.
they want you to be scary. You can be scary.
I guess it took 3 weeks to do anything, so time meant something different.
But I guess we shouldn't talk about the time that we broke up with Britain right now because it's
it's a sore topic.
a sore topic.
Too soon.
So,
Fuck those tea bags.
Tea bags.
I guess they weren't in bags.
I was thinking when we had our July 4th celebration, I wanted to give everybody a tea bag and have them throw it in like a bucket of water, just as a symbolic, like this is a
gesture.
tradition we should do,
and then
every
blow
year.
it up.
Anyways,
Drop an M80 in there.
we love British people here. So
We do actually.
does
yeah, that's
anybody
true.
want to answer the question? Because I don't think we wouldn't fly overseas for a game jam.
Well, I
in
mean, we can
particular.
do it online. You know, the internet is a thing that we can use.
It is. So the request is specifically for a high five. Right.
Well, actually, I feel like
That's
this
a
sort of falls under the more people here than there rule, where
Which is what?
if there's more people in one location and there's less people in another location,
Then the
and
fewer
both-
people go to the more people
Right,
place.
if both people want to be in the same place, the more people area triumphs, and the fewer people have to migrate.
Which
to
is
that.
why destination weddings are not a thing. You
that's
should
not
do.
a good idea.
So you're saying it's like so humans operate by reverse diffusion?
Yeah.
Reverse osmosis.
Well, in social situations, yes, yeah.
You
if
move
you
from
if
the
you
lowest
have
concentration to the highest.
if you have
concentration.
30 people at a house, and then your one friend who lives 10 minutes away is like, "Hey, you guys should all come over here." People say, "Fuck that, you come over here." More people here than their rule.
That's true, but there are some conventions in the Europe.
Yeah, I was gonna
it
say
Gamescom?
so there's Gamescom in Germany, there's Game City, there's all kinds of
Is there
European.
one in the UK?
I believe
In London or something?
so. Yes, I haven't been as up to date on those because I haven't been planning on going. But as we expand our convention plans, it's possible
That
that
would
in
be
the next few
cool.
years we might start thinking about going abroad.
Yeah.
To the different.
We do need to at some point.
Yeah. I mean, IndieCade just announced the French IndieCade, the IndieCade Europe that's happening in Paris, and then there's all kinds of other cool stuff that's happening over there. So
Sweet. So I guess the answer is
Maybe.
maybe eventually.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Hold on to your ponies and your cursed tea.
Hold on to your tea bags.
All right. Final question. This one comes from DJ Varick. Or
Dvorak, which is like Dvorak. Dvorak.
if someone were to be generous and give you a large sum of cash monies,
Cash dollars.
would you accept it or would you turn it down and rather work hard for things and be given anything for free?
Do both, duh.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
I'd accept it and then go back to work.
it's a good way to
Be
be.
like, thanks for that free money.
So here's a question: what would you do with it?
I'd just put it in a retirement
Yeah.
account.
Add it to my
Compound
emergency
interest.
fund.
There's no force in the universe more powerful than compound interest, except for gravity and
Entropy
lots of other things.
yeah.
But
This is really boring.
thermodynamics.
Well, Seth, you were talking about that study yesterday about what the economic development thing was in Nigeria for giving away cash for
Yeah,
business.
they had I believe it was on a Planet Money podcast where as I think the government of Nigeria was trying to promote economic development, and they just had a small business competition. And the winners of this competition, of which there were many, I think in the hundreds, each business got $50,000. And this has created an incredible number of new jobs because all these people wanted to grow their businesses, right? And they couldn't get loans, or if they did, they figured people would scam them because some folks in Nigeria have reputations for that kind of a thing. And most people actually thought it was a scam to begin with, even though the government was doing it because the government doesn't have a great reputation either. But they did it and it worked, and so it's a good thing to do. So I mean, yeah, it's a good thing.
Because the one problem with most things is that having more of them means that you can have more of them. You can make more of them, right? So money is the easiest example of that. Having more money makes it easier to make more money.
Well, that's not the problem. The problem is having less money makes it harder to have more money.
That's what I mean. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if you accepted the cash, it essentially allows you to work harder to make even more money. If you think about it that way, right?
Depends on your mindset.
Well, unless you're like,
sure.
I'm gonna take this cash and take a nap.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, that's true.
If you just lump it all into savings and don't do anything,
Right.
it doesn't help the economy.
that's true.
It just
Yeah, rich
exists.
people quit it.
Yeah.
Stop it. Spend your money.
Quit.
All right. Well, I think that's all we got for questions today.
Yeah.
Wrapping up the podcast. Wrapping it up. So
Where did these questions come from?
podcast.bscotch.net. You can ask them if you got a B-Scotch ID, and you'll get a sweet coffee with butterscotch perk. Otherwise, you can ask them anonymously if you're
One
Scared.
of those.
into that
If you're scared
sort of thing.
or into privacy.
And then we will be back next week with one of our new people.
Maybe.
And that'll be maybe.
We don't know what's going to happen next week. Carol's going to
figure it
tell
out.
us
We're gonna figure it out
later.
And we do have a fun piece of news that we can't talk about right now, but we'll talk about it next week. So keep your eyes on
do
the
we?
twits and stuff. We do.
That piece of news.
It's
a good one.
You know,
It's
the
a
news.
good one.
It is
So
good.
keep your eyes on the twits this afternoon and Facebook, even though we don't go there. So Twitter's good. We'll talk to you next week.
Instagram. Don't forget the Instagram.
Yeah. We've been posting tons of pictures on Instagram. Carol's been posting tons of pictures on Instagram doing her jib. So follow us on there and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.